When I have one-to-one calls with viewers, I often get questions about welcome email sequence. So in this video, I'll show you how I've automated my welcome email for new subscribers, and I'll give you practical tips on how to set up your first sequence. And don't worry, I like to keep my flows really straightforward so you won't feel overwhelmed while watching this video. Hello Internet people, my name is Robert and I help creators with the tech side of their business. And let me show you what I have here. So for this newsletter, I'm using ConvertKit as my email marketing provider, but this will work on any tool because I'm going to explain the logic behind my welcome sequence and not so much how to use this tool. So let me just start with this. I'm here in my Automate visual automations, and to start off, whenever you sign up to one of my freebies, to my lead magnets, you get tagged, and this is what happens here. So first of all, I want to make sure I know where you came from. So these are different forms I have, and anytime you sign up through them, you get tagged accordingly. And after that, I also tag you into my welcome flow, so I know you are just a new person, a new subscriber that I can then send my welcome sequence. The reason I'm doing this in ConvertKit separately is because I want to have more than 5 of these. I have more than 5 forms, and ConvertKit only allows 5 at a time, so that's why I have a few of those. But whenever you get a tag called welcome flow, then if you go back, you get into this main welcome automation. So here it is. Let me quickly just explain this in an overview. So first of all, once you get tagged with welcome flow, you get into the welcome sequence. This has 4 emails, and I'll show you in a second how they look like. After that, after the 4 days, basically you get into this step, which I add a tag here. I'll explain later what it does. And then we have the welcome content sequence. So I send out, I think it's 6 or 7 emails in this sequence. And these are all about my most valuable content. And then after that's done, that's almost, 6 weeks or so. After that's done, then you get into my main newsletter. So that's the tag, I'm giving a tag. And then from there, you are removed from the welcome flow. And basically that's the end of automation. So when I send out my weekly emails, I just send them to people that have this tag, main newsletter, and that's it. So let's just zoom in on this welcome sequence. Now, if you don't know, in ConvertKit, you have sequences of emails and you have broadcast emails. Those are like one-off emails. So I'm sending this welcome sequence. So let's go into sequences. They're here in send and sequences, and I have this welcome sequence here. Inside, you'll find 4 emails sent out every day, basically. So you sign up to my newsletter, you get a freebie, you get that lead magnet, and then a day later, you start getting emails. First email is here, and it's all about just useful resources, other tutorials to sort of improve your skills in Google Analytics 4, and specifically for e-commerce, because that's what I'm focusing for this newsletter. After that, I'm sending out another email 1 day later, and this one is just giving you all the most useful lead magnets I have. They're just here, you can click on it, you can download all of them. And this is really popular email from me, and I'll show you the report in a second. And then I promote, as third email, I promote my course. So I just want to make sure that people know that it exists and that it can help them on their way to become better with this tool. And then the fourth one, which is a bit more experimental, I ask for a question. I want to know what is my audience struggling with, so that's why I have it there. But you'll notice that if I look at the stats here, I haven't run this for long, maybe 2 weeks or so, and so far I've sent out 60 emails and I have got no answer. So I have open rate of 50%, so let's say 30 people saw it, nobody answered. So I want to run this for another 2-3 weeks, maybe get another 60 emails in, and then see if nobody replies. I might need to adjust the question and give some options there so that it's easier to answer. In any case, if you look at the report here, the first email has 51% open rate, which I would say is pretty high, and then you have almost 7% click-through rate, and then you have 50% open rate here, or 47, and then almost 9% click-through rate. So people really appreciate those free resources because they can just grab it instead of going to each of the forms, signing up and getting them. So this way I've just made it super easy. And then the last one, or the third one where I promote my course, it has a lower open rate and also has a lower click-through rate, which usually happens when you send out some sales emails. This is somewhere where what I want to also experiment with more, because right now it's just sales email, but maybe I can incorporate the course a bit better inside inside the content. So that's something I will experiment in the future. But as you can see, quite straightforward. In 4 days, you're done with my first part of my email welcome sequence. And then, so once you've done that, I also tag you as send personal video. And this is just something I've been experimenting with, sending some emails to potential customers, maybe getting them interested in what I do and also my course. But that's purely just in a test phase. But I want to make sure I've tagged those people. And it just tags everybody at that point. I just want to make sure they went through my initial welcome flow so that they are a bit familiar what I do and also got the value from my previous content. And then they go into a second part, which is the welcome content sequence. So if I go back to the sequences, I have a second part, which is really focusing on content. Now, why do I do that? So I have broadcast emails that I send out every week. So they're just weekly, or maybe sometimes I skip a week or so, but usually they're weekly. The best ones I grab and I put it in this sequence. So let me show you. I think it's easier to see the overview from here. I have here, what is this, like 7 emails and 1 in draft because I just disabled it. Now, why did I disable it? Because it was performing pretty badly. So it only had 42% open rate and only 2% click-through rate, whereas I have some other emails that just doing better. Then, for example, here I have no click-through rate is 0 just because I don't have links there, and I'm okay with that. Open rate is pretty high. This way, I want to make sure that my best content also reaches my new subscribers, because I want to drive as much value as I can, and that way just build that trust and build that relationship with my audience. But also, if something is not working, I will just remove it. So if, for example, if this will not improve, it only been 21 cents so far, but if it doesn't improve, I will just get rid of it, because it's just not useful there. It's not providing enough value to enough people. Now, this sequence is a little different because it's every 5 days, and I don't send out on weekends just because my audience is mostly working during weekdays, and on weekends they just don't look at this software. So I just took that out. That means every week you get an email from me during this sequence. Now, this means that to go through my welcome sequence, it takes you 6 to 8 weeks to just finish it and then go to my main newsletter where you get my weekly email. That is something I will experiment more, but I want to make sure my best content is also reaching my audience, like I said before. And only then I will start sending out new emails to people. And the way emails end up here is simply I just look here. For example, I send out some individual emails, broadcast emails, and you can see I just go from here and see, oh, this one didn't perform very well. Okay, I sent it out maybe 2 hours ago, but it didn't perform so well. I would not put it there. But for example, here, this one performed really well as a one-off email. I took it as is and put it in my email sequence. That way, the new audience also sees it. So once this sequence is done, this content sequence, you can see I add another tag, which is main newsletter. And I use this tag when I send out those weekly emails. So that way, you already finished the welcome sequence. Once that's done, I remove the welcome flow, or the welcome flow tag, and that way you're not part of it anymore. And then that's the end of automation. So you can see my welcome sequence is pretty straightforward. Yes, it takes long, but there's no like yes or no questions or any type of hey, if you clicked on something. I kept it quite simple. And by the way, if you're struggling with your email marketing or you just have some doubts about your setup, you can always book me for a consultation call. The link will be in the description down below. Now, if you're starting out and you want to build your own welcome sequence, I would definitely just look what your favorite creators are doing. So just follow 3 to 5 people and see how they do with their welcome sequence. Do they just send out one email and that's it, and then you go to the main newsletter? Or is there like a flow? I know it's not always easy to see, but I got so many ideas that I actually just copied from other creators. So for example, if we look at the welcome sequence, here, the first email I got from one creator. I really like how they did it. The one with all the lead magnets, I got it from another one because I saw how much value I was getting from it. So really, take a look what others are doing. Don't reinvent the wheel, especially if you're new to this. You can always improve later on, but just look what others are doing and take pieces from each and make it your own that way. The second tip is so underutilized because when you're starting building your welcome flow, it's kind of hard to imagine it in your tool. So you have to come here, you have to go back and forth. You don't really imagine how the flow will go. All you have to do is just pick a pen and paper and write it down. Just draw it out and see how it flows. because that just gives you a bit of that visual cues and see if it actually makes sense that way. Same thing with websites. When I build my websites or landing pages, I just draw them. Really simple drawings, but I draw it out before I can build it in the tool, because it just takes a lot of time, and sometimes it's so overwhelming using the tools. They're just not designed for overview. So definitely just plan it a little bit before you build it in your tool. It'll just make it so much easier for you to build it, and it's just not as overwhelming. And the third tip is really simple: start simple. So I showed you now, a welcome sequence with, 10 different emails, but you don't need to start with that. Start with 3, start with 1, and then you build it up. I've done that way as well. I started, I think, with 3 emails in the beginning, then I added a few content emails, and that's way I build it up. And it doesn't mean it's better if there's more emails. It really depends what your goal is. If it's to sell some products, then look at that. How can you sell better? How can you provide more value so you're more trustworthy? So definitely just start simple, and then within time you will add things to it. Don't worry, you will. And the fourth tip is quite simple, but don't be afraid of testing new things. If it doesn't work out, you can always just remove it. And if you get some bad responses, it's okay. You have to try to innovate and try what works for your audience. Because if you're just sticking to best practices like I'm providing you here, you're never gonna find out what really resonates with your audience, because my audience might be really different than yours, and your personality might be very different from mine. So what works for you will not work for me, and vice versa. So don't be afraid of failing and testing new things. Now you know how to start your own welcome sequence, but without designing engaging email, you won't be able to keep your readers' interest, and they will just unsubscribe. That's why you should watch this video next if you want to learn 5 email design secrets that the pros use.